The Red Ranger Becomes an Adventure in Another World is an actual anime that is currently airing. The Red Ranger from Power Rangers. This man is officially joining the ranks of isekai protagonists, along with a vending machine, a spider, a sword, a pig, and the famous ancient Chinese military strategist Zhuge Kongming.
All of them are protagonists of some isekai.
Let's be real, the state of modern isekai is an absolute disaster. The genre is so oversaturated with one-trick gimmicks that the odds of standing out are 1 in a quillion, especially now that you're competing with a vending machine and a Power Ranger. At this point, saying that isekai occupies the bottom of the entertainment barrel isn't even controversial, because there are only 2 isekais people universally agree are good. Like, if you take me out on a date, and you invite me to your place, and you suggest watching literally any of these, doesn't matter if you're a 10 out of 10, it's over. But put on this loser, or this freak, and I'm like, ooh, how did this happen? Sure, some people will argue for the skeleton guy or the slime guy, but, and I hate to break it to you, if you genuinely think that a dude playing a real-life Clash of Clans is on the same level as these two, you've got to be on some military-grade copium. Oh, and Konosuba is just in a league of its own. It's like comparing a Christopher Nolan film with a shitpost compilation. Let's cut to the chase though. What makes Mushoku Tensei and Re stand out in the most oversaturated genre of anime? Alright class, so we all know this formula. Some random ass, broke-ass kid gets clipped by a Mitsubishi Tanter, gets his life subscription revoked so hard he gets spit out in some village in Central Europe, and now he's playing Skyrim with the cheese mod. I think anyone can understand the appeal behind this premise. A world full of wonder and excitement where nothing bad ever happens, and a protagonist who has a blank slate for the audience to self-insert. It's escapism 101, leaving behind all the baggage of real life for a fresh start in a world where you are special. Well, there's nothing wrong with these types of stories. This is exactly what makes isekai so damn shallow. There's no reckoning with the character's past mistakes or the choices that led them to such a sorry state in their previous life. Stories like these entertain the idea that if only you had X or Y, you wouldn't have to worry about anything and could finally be happy. Rather than finding happiness by putting effort and changing from within, they show a world that conveniently adapts perfectly around them. Again, there's nothing wrong with power fantasies, but the problem is that success is only as meaningful as the journey that led to it. And most isekais are built on hollow victories. That's what makes ReZero and Mushoku so fascinating. Neither condone the pity party or the entitlement pre-installed into most isekai protagonists. Rather than run away from the misery of their condition, the protagonists assume the Dio pose, go, "Oh, you're approaching me," get beaten up, fall, and stand back up, only to repeat the endless cycle. Let's take a closer look at how rejection of escapism and misery shapes these characters. I think this is most apparent with Subaru. Subaru might just be the most real, relatable, and arguably the best written character in all of isekai. You know what? I'll say it. He might even be one of the best written protagonists in the fantasy genre as a whole. Because deep down, we all have a certain part of Subaru inside us. See, he didn't have a tragic backstory before being transported into this world. He wasn't being pushed at work or bullied at school. Instead, like many of us, he was bullying himself. And it didn't take an Evangelion third impact level of a fumble to trigger that behavior. No, he just slipped into the same self-destructive cycle any of us can fall into. One small mistake and disappointment at a time. I think at a certain moment in your life comes a realization that no matter who you think you are, what you've accomplished, or what you strive for, you are not special. It's tough pill to swallow because it means that if you want to change your life in any meaningful way, be it changing careers or starting a family or just trying to become a better person, you don't have any advantage. This sounds obvious until you put it into perspective. Unless you actively work towards your dream every single day, you will simply not achieve it. No matter how good you think you might be, you will have to put in ungodly hours, blood, sweat, tears, and likely money into it. You will lose many things and people dear to you along the road. All that, and you're still not guaranteed to succeed. So when you keep giving your best again and again and still see it fall so short, the blame turns inward. Surely it's you who's the problem, right? So you double down with more effort. Perceive all praise as flattery. You start assigning your self-worth to your future self. Happiness and love become something you hope to achieve. In the meantime, your self-worth gets ground into nothing. The end game of this process is that you find yourself with a new habit. Hating yourself for all your failures and disregarding any W's. This is exactly the cycle Subaru falls into. As a child, he was expected to be extraordinary. Especially with a Giga Chad father like his, Subaru's expectations for himself soared, but reality didn't meet them. When the applause stopped and his best efforts failed to stand out, he reinvented himself, adopting a loud, energetic persona to fit in. But eventually he realized that no matter how hard he tried, he wasn't enough. One misstep at a time, he spiraled into self-loathing, skipping school, and ultimately becoming a shut-in. The setup already makes Subaru's journey much more compelling than that of most other isekai. When he gets to this new world, it's not a second chance, it's his only one. It's a real start from zero. When he gets transported, he assumes the mask of an eccentric protagonist, overreacting to everything and just generally being cringe because that's not him. But no one can love him for who he is. And it's probably his power that really catalyzes his growth. See, Return by Death is an extremely well thought out irony. Subaru, unlike other heroes, can't wield a sword or cast spells. He doesn't know anything about the world and he's completely illiterate. He's nearly useless for even basic jobs, let alone protecting ones he cares about. So in Subaru's mind, the only way he can be useful is to abuse this ability, to die over and over trying to figure out a way he can save everyone, grinding any sense of worth he might have had left for his life or himself into nothing. His power doesn't make him special, it highlights his weaknesses. His behavior isolates him and causes him to fail over and over again. Thus, Subaru is forced to confront his failures, collaborate with others, and make the absolute most of the resources this world offers to solve problems. It's in his reliance on others and his willingness to face his insecurities that Subaru gradually grows as a person and awakens his inner wizard. We watch him fail countless times, endure unimaginable pain, feel alienated, and suffer betrayal. He's shattered, remolded, and emerges stronger each time. His victories against fate and himself don't just feel like it, they are earned. But Subaru's struggles are actually not that unique, because there's another protagonist who wrestles with the weight of their choices, and they are from an entirely different kind of anime. Redial from Mushoku Tensei, despite his immense power, finds that internal struggles remain just as arduous. Both characters navigate brutal worlds, yet their growth lies in facing their flaws and striving to be better people. While Subaru battles both his inner demons and the gods of his world, Redial's story initially seems like the complete opposite, a journey into escapism and the indulgence of high fantasy. Starting out, Redial's situation couldn't be any more different. I mean, we're talking about a dude who got bullied so hard, he became an isekai trope. And when he got transported, it clearly wasn't skill-based matchmaking, because his insane talent allowed him to become one of the strongest characters in the universe in no time. So instead of getting brutally massacred, he was able to enjoy the escapist tropes of the new world. He's hopeful that maybe with a simple advantage, he might actually be someone he always dreamed of being. But he completely misses the point, the real reason why he suffered. These advantages act more as a distraction and make working through his traumas all the more difficult. Not just that, but it constantly gets in the way of him being an actually likable person, since it gives him the means to act like an actual freak and go unpunished. And I'm not letting that slide. Slight spoilers, but when I was watching the last episode of season 2, I just wanted to quit immediately. I was like, ew, get me out of here. Because with the only man in the house being Redial, you just know that this huge ass house is a Victorian palace by day and an actual DD mansion by night. As I was saying, this is the show that defined isekai as an escapist fantasy. We travel to these whimsical places and feel the real depth of the world building, but all of this is only possible because of Redial's constant running away from his past life or desperately clinging to this new one. He even miraculously succeeds at this game of cat and mouse for most of the show. He builds strong relationships and everything starts falling into place until one moment it doesn't. He thinks he is growing and adjusting to this world until he isn't. It's not just the traumas he's running away from, it's the misery DLC you get when you spawn as a human, so naturally it's a meaningless runaway. Redial, of course, is oblivious to this. He runs away, indulges in hedonistic desires as much as he can, and feels happy, and then everything crashes again. He shows us that even if you become one of the top 10 strongest characters in the Omniverse, that alone will not fill any holes inside. He's meant to represent that real change can only come from within. Misery is just one of the things that are a part of being human, and you might be the most hedonistic and powerful being in the world, but it will always find a way to get to you. That's why confronting those experiences is so important for Redial, and why it gets brought up again and again. Without working through them, putting in the real sweat and tears to change yourself, everything will stay exactly the same. Trying to become a better person is different from trying to gain muscles or learning something. It requires you to constantly fail, swallow it up, get tormented, and then see through anyway. And that's something no amount of isekai bullshit will ever be able to give you. But the alternative is even worse, because when things eventually go south and you hit a random pothole on the journey of life, you will find yourself falling into the same self-destructive cycles you thought you escaped, indulging in hedonism and fantasies. For it was never an escape, but escapism. The appeal of the show is that we follow Rudius through each bump on his journey to become a better person. His growth is much slower than Subaru's, but he does grow in real ways. He does pull a DD every now and again and makes you want to pour bleach into your eyes, but that's something that reminds us of the long way he has still got to go. So, what makes ReZero and Mushoku Tensei stand out? It's not the power fantasies or the extravagant world, though they are very well built. It's the raw, unfiltered humanity. They go beyond escapism, force their protagonists to confront their flaws, endure hardship, and grow in ways similar to ours. They show us that true change does not come from a magical reset button or infinite power. It comes from facing the messy, uncomfortable parts of ourselves. In a genre overflowing with magical wish fulfillment, these shows remind us of something crucial. ReZero teaches us that being reborn isn't gonna solve your problems, and it doesn't matter because it's your growth as a person, your efforts, your pain, blood, tears, and toil that make the goal desirable. While Mushoku presents the exact opposite scenario. Having all the power and gifts in the other world does not guarantee you'll be free from having to do all the growing up, with all the pain and terror that entails. Maybe that's why, even in a world full of vending machines and pig protagonists, these stories stand tall as proof that isekai can be more than just escapist fluff. It can be art.